And our first guest this morning is Theresa Corbin. She grew up Catholic, but she's now a Muslim.
Theresa converted just 2 months after September 11th. We welcome her to Memphis for Muslims in Memphis Month. That's March, and we will link to a website where you can get information about all of the events, because the whole idea is bridging the gap. But first, let's tell your story. You were Catholic?
Yes, ma'am.
What made you convert?
You know, I was studying different cultures and different religions, and in college, my roommate actually converted to Islam. And when she converted, I realized all of a sudden that I had all these prejudices towards Muslims that I hadn't even known.
Prejudice like what?
Like, I thought that they were violent and angry, and, you know, they oppressed women. You know, the typical misconceptions about Islam.
Right.
And what I came to find out, it was completely the opposite of all of that. And it really attracted me, and it spoke to my nature. And so I just, you know, I just figured that if this is what I feel, then I should be Muslim too.
What were the key points that attracted you about Islam?
Just the connection with God. You know, you pray 5 times a day and reestablish that connection with your Creator. And, you know, just the modesty and the humility, and it was a lot of different things, I think. And really learning about Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was just reminded me so much of what I learned about Jesus. And, you know, his patience and tolerance towards all people. And it was just amazing.
Theresa, when you also converted, was there much resistance, pushback from other family members, other friends, or how did they react to your decision?
Well, it was kind of mixed. You know, they were concerned, of course, because it was a hard time for Muslims at the time. So,
right.
you know, they were worried for my safety, and I appreciated that. But mostly they were really supportive. Like, if this is what you want to do, then we'll support you. So they were really good.
And they took steps to educate themselves?
Absolutely.
So they understood it more fully?
My younger sister, Eileen, she actually took a course in college about Islam, so she could learn more about
Does it
religion.
make you angry, groups like ISIS and people who call themselves Muslims, and I suppose technically are, but do not follow the truly peaceful tenets of the faith? Does that make you angry? Because so many Americans do have a very negative opinion of Muslims.
Yes. I can't tell you how frustrating it is, and that is what the world sees about Islam. And it's a complete distortion, and it makes something that I find so beautiful in my life, it makes it so corrupt to other people. And it's just very, very frustrating, and makes me very angry. And I wish that, you know, and it's a good thing they're having me here tonight so I can have that platform to tell people this is not Islam at all by any stretch of the imagination. Maybe these people are Muslim, I can't say that, but what they do is completely divorced from Islam.
Are you seeing any positive steps or more positive steps for communities, people of different religions, to try slowly but surely to better get to know one another?
Absolutely. I'm seeing really good things. Well, where I'm from in New Orleans, there's a lot of interfaith committees, and we get together and talk about what we can do to help the youth become more faithful, and how we can live together in peace and understand each other. So, and definitely here in Memphis, I'm really impressed with the Muslims in Memphis organization, and how they're having such an outreach to the community. I believe last week they did the Stop Hunger Now drive, and we're very successful in that, and got a bunch of people of different faiths together to, you know, collaborate on this effort.
Right, to bridge that gap.
To bridge the gap. There's a
misunderstanding.
big gap, and it needs to be bridged, definitely.
So tonight you are speaking, and we'll put this on the screen for you. You're speaking in Germantown. Right. Will it just be a talk, you telling your story, or will you take questions? Because I think people have a lot of questions, and maybe they're even afraid to ask for fear of looking prejudiced. But will you take questions?
Yeah, because again, a lot of people want a conversation.
Yes.
And they want to get to know one another and understand what's going on.
Absolutely.
So what will happen?
We're going to have questions at the end. I believe there's going to be about 30 minutes for questions. I won't really necessarily be telling about my story, because I do have a blog where I have all of that. I'll be inviting people to understand what Islam is, who the Muslims are, and where the misconceptions lie. So I'm going to really be focusing on that, and afterwards people, if they have questions about me and my journey, or anything really, they don't need to feel shy or embarrassed or feel like we'll judge them or, you know, be harsh towards them. We're open to everything.
You also mentioned that you are a feminist. Just reading on you. And what did you find with regard to how women are regarded?
Well, you know, my first interaction with a Muslim woman, I asked her, why do you have to wear this, you know, the hijab or scarf, you can
Right.
call it.
So many rules.
Right. And, you know, she told me so beautifully, it's her choice to please God. And it's not that she's hiding from the world, but she's dressing this way so she can be recognized as a believing woman. Like we would recognize a picture of Mary. She is a faithful woman. Peace and blessings be upon her. Like we would recognize a nun. So this is not like we're not hiding from the world. We're trying to represent ourselves as believing women.
Do you feel you also have just as many rights as any other woman in any other religion?
I do, absolutely. I feel like, you know, there's not only so many marriage rights, and a lot of people have problems with that because they see what goes on in politics in the Middle East that is contrary to Islam. You know, the woman has the right to say who she marries, who she doesn't marry, if she marries, if she divorces, when she wants to divorce, all these rights, you know, and it's not just a right to education. It is an obligation on every Muslim. So whatever they're doing that's contrary to this
Gotcha.
is completely against Islam.
So the Taliban, they're not really practicing. So we just have to help get that word out, and that's
Right,
exactly what the
absolutely.
Muslims in Memphis